Welcome everybody. I'm going to be splitting this into 5 short videos. In those 5 short videos, we're going to talk a little bit about our colors and some drawing techniques. Also, how to make a shape into a form by adding value with those colors. So to get started, we're going to start with our warm colors. Those are the ones that remind us of fire. That is going to be our yellow, our orange, and our red. So we can go ahead and move the rest to the side. If you have a standard pack, you are not going to have this golden yellow. You'll just have these 3 to get started, and whatever you have is okay. So when we go ahead and start to do our very first value scale, you can see that we're using warm colors and we're going to be using the technique of hatching. That means our lines are going to be running parallel. That means side by side, but never actually crossing. So all of our lines should go in the same direction. Because we are using colored pencils, we're going to be learning how to color blend. So that means we will be using all 3 pencils in our first value scale and adding value to our sphere. So since we start on the light side, you're going to pick the lightest of 3 colors, which is going to be your yellow. And we're going to add our hatching marks in each one of these squares. Notice how it goes light to medium to dark. So now we want to go ahead, excuse my dogs, and start with our lightest. So that means my lines are going to be kind of further apart, but notice we can still see some color in that box. Now my lines are going to get a little bit closer together. And then in medium, they're going to be pretty close, and I'm going to be pressing with regular pressure. Then I'm going to start to keep them really close and press as hard as possible. So notice how so far we've only used 1 color pencil, and in our value scale, it still goes from light to dark. Now we want to start with our medium color. That means our light is our yellow, so we're going to add some nice light lines with the orange to our second box. Then we're going to start to add a little bit more in that medium box, so that should be mostly orange. And then we're going to, again, keep our lines closer and with more pressure in that second to last box, and then as hard as possible in that dark box. So notice we're still getting darker with every square that we do, and we've already started blending our colors. Now we're going to go to our darkest color. We're going to start right past the medium. We're going to add in some of that red and then make the dark as possible. So even though some of our lines touch, look at how they're also going in the same direction. So we have all of our hatching lines going in the same direction as our value scale goes from light to dark with our colors. Now to color in our sphere, we're going to do the same thing. So this little area right here is our highlight. And we can tell that that's the lightest part because our arrow is telling us where our light source is. Because we are doing hatching, we can only go in one direction. So I'm going to go this direction and I'm going to start to build up my light. Now it's going to be light almost everywhere except for that highlight that I'm going to leave white. Since we also have our highlight here, that means our shadow is going to be on the opposite side. So I can start to make my shadow come out. So just by adding pressure to my colored pencil, I can start to give this some form. Now I'm going to pick up my medium and keeping my lines going in the same direction, I'm going to follow this curve around. Notice all my lines are going from left to right. And I'm going to start to build that up a little bit. And look at now how we can start to see that value change from white to yellow to orange. And again, I'm going to build up my shadow. So of course my shadow is darkest near my sphere. So I can build that up a little bit more, fading to that yellow. Now that we've used the light and the medium, we're going to switch to our dark and we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to add these lines. I want to leave a little gap between the sphere and the shadow for that reflective light. And then I can really start building up my shadow by being as close to that sphere as possible. And notice now our sphere looks like an actual 3D object instead of a flat circle. We have our highlight, our light, our medium, our dark, our reflective light, and our cast shadow. That is how you blend with colored pencils with warm colors using the hatching technique.